This episode of Positively Trek is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon, including Jim Stoffel, Joyce Marin, and Carl Morris. Visit patreon.com/positivelytrek to help support the podcast. Perks include early access to episodes, exclusive content, shout-outs, associate producer credits, and more. Thanks to all of you for your support. And now, let the show begin.
I have to say, it gives me great pleasure to be able to say these words. Welcome, everyone, to a new episode of Positively Trek. I am one of your hosts, Dan Gunther, and I'm home. I'm here. I'm able to record this podcast on my own equipment, not in some hotel room and not missing weeks because I'm way up north. And my co-host, who is always here and always steadfast and amazing and did an amazing job taking the reins for all the episodes when I was gone, Bruce Gibson. Thank you so much for keeping the home fires burning here at Positively Trek.
Oh my gosh, you're here. Like, I was sitting here thinking, is this real? Am I dreaming? It's really you. It's really you, Dan.
I'm so happy.
Oh my gosh, we missed you. It's like, this is like, oh, okay, it's back to normal again. Not that, I enjoyed all my other co-hosts, guests, and stuff while you were gone. Had a great time with them, but it's always nice to have you back and have just the two of us together as always.
Oh, that makes me so happy. I've been listening. I'm not quite finished listening to the latest episode. And actually, I haven't listened to the book club episode yet. But what I've heard, you did amazing. There's some great stuff. I loved you and Katie talking about Lower Decks. And you and John Krikorian, what I've heard of that, great episode. Yeah. I'm so excited to hear the rest of that, but I'm also really happy to be back. Absolutely.
So let me ask you haven't listened to the book club with John Jackson Miller. Is it because you haven't had time to finish the book?
You kind of caught me there. I'm not quite finished, but I'm also just not there yet in the podcast queue. But I'm not quite finished the book. Really enjoying it, though. And really excited to listen to that. And I've actually also already started on the next book club episode, kind of reading them back and forth a little bit right now, because I don't want to get too far behind there. But I'm really excited to hear that episode.
Yeah, it was fun catching up with John. I will say that before we started to record that episode, he and I probably talked for like 15 minutes or so, or 20 minutes. I don't know. We were geeking out about classic TV shows because he loves those, I love them, and Ed Asner had recently passed away, and so that kind of kicked off the conversation, blah blah blah, right. And whatever. So yeah, it was fun, but we missed you. I'm glad you're back talking about Star Trek once again, and yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really excited to get into this. We have an all news episode today. No real central discussion topic, but that's because there's a ton of news that's come out in the last few days that we want to cover. So to start out with, we have some news from Star Trek Prodigy. I'm sure all of you out there have seen the opening title sequence. We're going to talk about that, as well as some insights into some new characters and plot lines in that show. And then we have some Star Trek Picard news. They've wrapped on season 2, moving on to season 3. We'll talk a bit about that, as well as a really surprising character announcement for season 2, which a return of a big baddie from the TNG universe. So very excited to talk about that. And we also have a new product that we're going to talk about that might be kind of fun from one of the big Star Trek license holders right now, Star Trek Unlimited. So looking forward to talking about that as well. But before we get into all of that, Bruce, you took a little side trip, not much of a trip because it actually takes place where you live, but you were at Dragon Con this weekend.
I was. I just went one day on Sunday. And the main reason I was there was for my oldest daughter. She's into Miraculous, Ladybug, and Cat Noir. It's a series that you'll see like on Netflix or Disney or whatever. It's in different places. It's produced in France, and she just loves the show. So she was Ladybug, and people were taking her picture left and right. So she was surprised how many people were familiar with Ladybug, both young and old. And well, when I say old, like, my age, but but not elderly. But And then, Smallville was a thing that we had to go because she's seen all of Smallville and is a big Smallville fan. So we had to go see them, the actors from the show and the panel and get their autographs and all that stuff. So a lot of it was centered around her. But I did see some Star Trek people there. Anthony Rapp was there. I did see him. And I briefly talked to him, and then Mary Wiseman and her husband Noah were there. I got to talk to them, which was cool too, because we got there so early that when they opened the autograph hall, there wasn't really many people there. So I just was like with my family, and we were just like hanging out with them because nobody else was really around. So we were talking, about marriage. And now I know that Noah and I are the quote, husbands, roll your eyes. That's what we were getting from my wife and Mary. So I obviously, we're just goofy, I guess is the way to put it. Sonequa Martin Green was also there, but I never saw her. I don't know if she was attending today because her booth was totally empty and there wasn't any panels. So maybe she wasn't at the whole convention. And Garrett Wong, of course, was there because he runs the Star Trek track, and I did see him. So when it comes to actors, I saw that, but I didn't get to any panels Star Trek related or anything like that. And I saw some people in Starfleet uniforms, but I didn't see Klingons or any other Star Trek aliens. Because of COVID, it was kind of toned down show. There weren't as many people. They had to cap as many people they could let in. Masks are required. Vaccinations are required. So it wasn't like a full convention like most of the time when you go to a Dragon Con or something else, but it was still fun.
That's pretty cool. There was one thing that I saw online that I wanted to ask you about, because I've seen that Will Wheaton has posted that he's not attending any conventions this year because of everything that's going on. But apparently Will Wheaton was sighted at the convention with his own booth and everything. But so I'll tell you, apparently this guy just looks a little bit like Will Wheaton and was cosplaying as Will Wheaton, and even set up this little booth saying, yes, that's right, it's the amazing Will Wheaton, and had a little booth there to meet him. And I should also say, Will Wheaton is okay with this. He was posting about it on Facebook, laughing about it, and was genuinely touched by it, he said. But I'm wondering, did you get a chance to meet this faux Will Wheaton?
I did not see this guy. No, I saw this on Facebook afterwards. I don't know where he was. He was not in the main hall where other people were doing autographs and such. So I don't know really where he was stationed, but I never saw him. If I did, I would have walked up. I don't know how I would have felt about it, because I would have been like, dude, are you really trying to make money pretending you're somebody that you're not? Like, fooling people? Like, I don't know.
Well, if you look at the poster, though, I do have to say it says autographs $45. That's crossed out, and then it says $35 under it. Then it's crossed out, says $25, crossed out $12.50, and then underneath that free. So I think it was all.
Okay. I didn't notice that. I saw the $45. I didn't know it was crossed out when I saw the picture. Okay, so that makes me feel better. So I would have been like more pleasant to him if I saw him. But I would have walked to him and went, "Hey, nerds!" Just like Will Wheaton does on his show. But no, I didn't see him. But now, if he's there next year, I'll be looking for him.
That's awesome. Yeah, apparently, according to Will Wheaton, like I said, he's not there or anything, but Felicia Day apparently texted him about this guy and took a picture and stuff. So
I did see her there, yes.
Oh, right on. I love her. I think she's amazing. So that's really cool. One day, it's on my bucket list. I do want to get out to Dragon Con. Because, it's Dragon Con. It's a big event, big deal and stuff. And B, it's in your hometown where you live. And I'd love to visit you there and all that stuff.
That would be cool. You're welcome anytime. And, the other thing about this show is usually I'm on Star Wars panels. I moderate, or I'm a panelist or doing whatever. And I haven't been involved in any of that this year. I really want to do it with Star Trek, but I haven't been able to get that gig yet. But we'll see. Hopefully in the future, I'll get to do something.
That would be great. I'd love to record like a live Positively Trek as panelists or something somehow. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yes. Well, I put the word out to some people. Positively Trek. No, not really. I didn't. I wish I had cards, but I don't. I should have done something like that, but I didn't think about it.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of time. We'll get there for sure. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, one thing you were telling me was you did see some Star Trek cosplay, but not a lot from younger people. You said there's, most of the people cosplaying Star Trek are kind of a bit of the older generation. But we were saying that there might be something coming soon that might tilt the demographics of Star Trek a little younger, hopefully. I know CBS has their fingers crossed in this direction, and that, of course, is Star Trek Prodigy. And one thing that was released this past week is the main title sequence for Star Trek Prodigy, which I'm just going to come right out and say it looks and sounds beautiful. What did you think of this?
Well, it's a typical Star Trek opening of a ship flying around, but yeah, it's beautiful. The animation, the visuals are stunning. I like even when the ship is going at one point, it's parting something that looks like the Delta symbol, and the music by Michael Giacchino is wonderful, who also composed Star Trek music for the 3 Kelvin Timeline movies. Because I did ask him at that one STLV to write me a theme song. So even though he didn't write me a theme song because he wanted me to give him money for it, which I didn't do, I did think this Prodigy song could have been my theme song. This could have been what he would have written for me.
Maybe he had you in mind when he wrote it.
I'd like to think that, yes, because I'm kind of a prodigy, right?
Oh, for sure. Definitely. But yeah, these credits are amazing. The music by Michael there is amazing, of course. And these visuals, I love that, like you say, it's typical of a Star Trek opening. It's kind of, I've seen it described as like the Voyager opening, but just like with the speed and everything ramped up to 11. But the one thing that I do like about it is we see all the characters, all the main characters from the show in the opening credits, as well as like celestial objects that the ship, the USS Protostar, is flying around, and culminating, of course, with Janeway at the end, before, we see the title Star Trek Prodigy. The one thing that I didn't notice until I was watching it a couple times was when it goes to warp or some really fast speed, there's like a third nacelle that pops out of the main body, and this design of this ship is really gorgeous. I really love it.
Oh, I didn't notice the third nacelle. Okay.
Yeah, you can kind of see it. So if you go in the Trek movie article I linked there, and the still they have for the video of it, you can kind of see it there.
Okay, yeah, now I'm seeing that. Yeah, I wonder if that's some slipstream type of nacelle,
That's what I wonder, because as we know, this takes place in the Delta Quadrant, and how did this ship get there so fast if, it was sent after Voyager went back kind of thing. So maybe some sort of new propulsion system we haven't heard of before.
Yeah, that would be cool, because we saw a third nacelle on the Enterprise D and All Good Things. So I wonder if it's kind of relating to that in a sense.
That kind of future-y time period kind of thing, yeah.
I have to tell you, though, I do have a concern about this opening. One thing I wonder, first of all, is if it's going to have the voice actors' names in the opening. It doesn't in this video, but I wonder if they're going to place them in there like they do with Lower Decks. But my concern, though, is if this is the opening they put on every episode, it's 1.5 minutes long, and which is a little long for an opening for a kid's show like this. And as much as I enjoy it, I am concerned, like, are kids going to get bored with it after seeing it through different episodes that goes for 1.5 minutes? It's like, I'm just thinking kids' attention spans, because I'm thinking of my kids when they were younger. I could see like my daughter starting to watch the show, and then that theme song comes on and she's used to seeing it over and over again, that she might like switch the channels. I don't know. I'm just saying, maybe. That's my only concern.
Yeah. Well, to your first question, I'm assuming the voice actors' names will be put on there, because this was how they released the Discovery opening credits and stuff before we saw them without the names and stuff. And then when it actually aired, they had added the names and that kind of thing. And yeah, the concern about the length, I did notice that as I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is a bit long. But if you're watching it on Nickelodeon, presumably there's going to be commercials as well. So it just gives you a little extra time to go get snacks and drinks and that kind of thing. And if you're watching it on Paramount Plus, I'm assuming they have something similar to Netflix and Crave, which is the skip intro button.
They don't.
They don't?
No.
Wow.
I keep waiting to see if they're going to do that because it seems like everybody else is doing that, but they don't do it. And I wish they would, because we talked on a previous episode that you weren't on about Star Trek series leaving Netflix, some of them. And I typically watch them on Netflix so I could use that feature, because I don't always want to sit through the theme songs. I love the theme songs. I love the openings. But, sometimes I'm just like, okay, I've seen it enough. I just want to move forward. So I'll do the skip. But they don't do it on Paramount Plus. So I'm hoping they'll have that option.
Yeah. I do have to say, I love all of the openings and theme songs, all of them. And I do mean all of them. But yeah, for example, when my wife and I were watching Star Trek Enterprise, you would often hear, if you were listening in to us watching the episode, they'd be like, dramatic moment. Then it goes to the credits. It's been a long... And then the episode starts.
Yep.
The skip intro button was used. Yes, quite a bit.
Especially if you're binge watching, a certain series, you don't want to always have to sit through that. But there are times where I take the remote, I'm about to hit skip, and I don't, and I go, no, I feel like watching it and hearing the music this time.
For sure. Well, moving on to some more Star Trek Prodigy news, we did get a first look at some villains from Star Trek Prodigy as well. And it had been announced that John Noble and Jimmy Simpson were part of the voice cast, and they're the kind of villainous people. So the Diviner is apparently the big bad, voiced by John Noble. And he's the father of main character Gwyn. John Noble, you might know from things like Lord of the Rings and Fringe. I love that guy. I'm so excited that he's a part of Star Trek now. And Jimmy Simpson is apparently his robot henchman, Dreadnought. So some interesting baddies here. And we did get a look at Dreadnought as well, and this kind of red-eyed, evil-looking robot henchman thing. So I don't know. What do you think of the addition of these characters?
Well, I really didn't expect to have villains in Prodigy. I don't even know what I was expecting, because we haven't really heard that much about it until recently. But I didn't expect there to be ongoing villains that we would have throughout the series. But I'm looking at the robot. We're not seeing the full body. We're just seeing really from the chest up. I do like the red eyes, and it's a very dark, armored robot. And I'm curious, I just looking at the way it's leaning forward, I'm thinking, does it have more than two legs? Does it walk maybe? Yeah, it does, like a spider. We did talk about it you weren't on the episode, but he's like a spider-like robot.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So, yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I guess what I was just thinking is actually true. I don't understand this other thing, this tube of liquid for the Diviner. It's kind of a fuzzy shot, like a close-up. It's not high resolution.
Yeah, we haven't gotten a good look at him yet. He's just in this one shot, I guess, and it's his back as well. So yeah, we don't see very much of him at all. So his looks and his identity and stuff is a bit of a mystery, and what he looks like here. But speaking of mysteries, apparently there's kind of an overarching mystery to the series a bit as well. So the executive producers, Kevin and Dan Hageman, were talking about the show during the Television Critics Association's panel. And apparently there's a bit of a mystery as the kids are on this ship, starting in the Delta Quadrant and working their way to the Alpha Quadrant over the course of the series. So kind of following in Voyager's footsteps a little bit. So maybe lending an even more of a reason for why Hologram Janeway would be a bit of a mentor for them if they're kind of repeating her journey somewhat.
Wait. Didn't we already have a series about trying to go from the Delta Quadrant to the Alpha Quadrant? We're doing it again. But I do expect there to be some slipstream type of, this is probably a newer ship since Voyager got stuck into the Delta Quadrant. So I don't think they're going to be sitting there going, well, let's head to the Alpha Quadrant. It could take us about 70 years to get there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very different in that respect for sure.
I think that I wonder if they are going to get to the Alpha Quadrant fairly early in this. And because, when we've talked about some of the aliens that we've seen in the cast, we're like, but these are Alpha Quadrant aliens. So it makes me wonder if they quickly get to the Alpha Quadrant and that's where they pick up these other characters.
That's what I wonder as well. Like, so many times we've found out about Star Trek series and like all of the pre-series stuff is just the first episode, right?
Yeah.
So we're picturing this series that's going to take place in the Delta Quadrant and all this stuff, but maybe that's like the first episode and that's it. Like, remember when Star Trek Discovery was first airing and we found out it was going to be a show about a first officer instead of a captain and blah, blah. And Burnham's only the first officer for the first 2 episodes before she, has her fall from grace. So this could be something very similar.
That's true. That's a good point. And I also can imagine the executives at CBS and Nickelodeon sitting around saying, wait, if it's in the Delta Quadrant, that means we can't have Klingons on this kid's show or Rami. Like, we'd want to have that. Well, we'll make a slipstream, whatever type of, ship, and it can go the Alpha Quadrant, it can go in the Beta Quadrant. We can go all over the place, So maybe it jumps all over the galaxy.
That could be, yeah. The more I find out about this series and the more that I see about it, the more excited I am. Like, I know it's geared towards kids, but I have a feeling I am going to enjoy the heck out of this show.
Yes. Well, I've heard David Mack say it more than once that this is his favorite Star Trek since Deep Space Nine. So we'll see.
Oh, that makes me so excited. I'm so happy. Well, moving from Star Trek Prodigy to a little bit more of the adult side of the Star Trek universe, we received word this week that Star Trek Picard has wrapped production on season 2, but they're not done. They're not taking a break right now because they're moving directly on to season 3. Now, if you remember back earlier this year, there were kind of reports that season 2 and 3 were going to be done back to back simultaneously kind of thing. And that does seem to be the case, as on social media, there's been reference made to being half done, that kind of thing. They're done season 2, but they're just jumping right into season 3. So I'm excited for that. That means, of course, that we are getting a season 3 of Picard. And the fact that those two are kind of more back to back might mean that they're a little more interconnected. I don't know. That might be a bit of a jump to assume that, but maybe there is kind of a continuing story between the 2 seasons.
There could be, or strongly connected in some manner. It could, definitely could be. What excites me is that we could get season 3 not long after season 2. I don't expect it, of course, to air the next week, but it could just be 6 months later. It may not take that long. They may even put it on the shelf for a little while and say, okay, where do we have a hole between all these other Star Trek series, and we'll just fill that hole with the 3rd season of Picard. But again, I think it would be within a year. I don't think we would have to wait much longer.
Yeah, I'm so excited either way. But yeah, that's a really good point, that there could be maybe less of a stretch of time, because 2021 has gone by without any Star Trek Picard, right? And a lot of that is because of the pandemic and that sort of thing. So at the very least, I don't think there'll be a full year between the 2 seasons. So that'll be really nice.
So John Kerkorian and I were talking on a previous episode here about what we think is going to happen next year, what order the series. So I'm just curious from you, what series do you think we're going to get in order in 22?
That's a good question. I know I've made guesses before, but I can't remember what I said, and I haven't really thought about it lately. I would think Picard before Strange New Worlds, and the only reason for that is that we've already gotten a couple trailers for Picard, and we've seen nothing from Strange New Worlds yet. So I feel like Discovery is going to, if it isn't delayed all the way until next year, it will spill over into next year. So I think Discovery, Picard, then Strange New Worlds is kind of my immediate guess.
I don't know. I can't remember. I think that's what John said. I can't even remember what I said now. But if I'm changing my answer, then it just shows you I'm wishy-washy on this. So yeah, Discovery, but I think I was thinking Strange New Worlds, then Picard. And I think it's that way in my mind because we know Strange New Worlds has wrapped production.
That entered my mind too. And I was like, that's why I hesitated a little bit because, it's interesting. It's very strange that we haven't gotten anything from Strange New Worlds yet, which I'm assuming they're going to release something. If you're listening to this episode the day it comes out, tomorrow on Star Trek Day, which I'm very excited about. Now, I'm assuming you and John talked about Star Trek Day and the events coming up.
Yes, we did. And I will say that I was very excited because I was poo-pooing this when I heard the announcement because it's on a weekday. I'm like, why do they always do these things on a weekday when I'm at work? And, it's hard to watch the panels until I realized it's at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. I think those were the times. But I was like, oh, I that's after work. I can watch them. So in real time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have nothing planned for that day. I remember last year and I think Captain Picard Day, I had something going on both of those days. But this year I'm clearing my schedule. I'm sitting down in front of my computer with a notebook and Twitter, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm so excited for it.
Maybe we should watch it together over Zoom.
Oh, that would be fun.
Oh, by the way, when I was at DragonCon, I was wearing my disco shirt.
Oh, that's good.
So when I would see
awesome.
the actors, because I have the lanyard and badge on, every time I saw, I think they thought maybe I would be hanging myself because I would pull the lanyard and the badge over my head and go, "Look what I'm wearing!" And even Mary Wiseman's like, "Oh yeah, I wore that shirt before." I'm like, "You're the first one I ever saw wear it."
That's awesome. Hey, now did you talk to Mary Wiseman about coming on the show?
I did. That's all I'm gonna say.
And when she's scheduled? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not saying anything. I did mention it, so just we'll wait and see.
Very cool. All right. Okay. I knew you would because you're awesome that way.
Let's just say this. I said, "You're invited to come on the show, but I know you won't." That's what I said to her.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to tell you what was said afterwards.
I had kind of a similar conversation with Mary Chifo once at Vulcan in Vulcan, Alberta. So, yeah, okay. I'm curious. I'll ask you after we're done recording the rest of that conversation. But
okay.
Anyway.
Yes.
So yeah, like I say, I think Strange New Worlds, we're going to finally see something on Star Trek Day. I mean, we better at this point because it's getting kind of silly that we haven't seen anything. Yeah, Picard I'm excited about, especially with this latest piece of casting news for Star Trek Picard. Now, if you don't want to know anything more about Picard beyond what's already been revealed and that kind of thing, this is kind of out there and in. So I don't know if you've managed to avoid this little spoiler, dear listener, but maybe skip ahead a little bit if you don't want to know anything. But we're really excited that Star Trek Picard Season 2 has cast the Borg Queen for the season. Now, this is interesting. And the more I learn about the plot of Season 2, the more I'm like, what's going on here? We've got time travel back to the 21st century. We've got alternate timelines. And the Borg Queen, played by Annie Wershing, who is no stranger to Star Trek. She guest starred in the episode Oasis in Enterprise Season 1, alongside Renee Auberjonois, who also guested in that episode. But I'm this has kind of left me reeling because I was really surprised to see this news. What do you think of this, Bruce?
Yeah, I was surprised too. Of course, I wasn't expecting the Borg Queen. Of course, we're always returning to the Borg when Picard's involved, of course.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm pleased about it because I don't think the Borg Queen is somebody that just gets killed. We've seen that happen before. We think she's dead, but she's not really. There's multiple Borg Queens, or there's timey-wimey stuff going on with the Borg Queen. Whatever it is, but it would be nice because we did see the Borg Queen's lair or whatever on the first season of Picard. So she was mentioned during that season. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. And again, this could be an alternate timeline, because we see there's going to be some weird alternate time things, parallel universes or whatever, alternate realities in Picard this next season. So I'm curious to see how they play it out, but I'm pleased to see this. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I'm always surprised at some of the, and I this is going to sound harsher than I mean it, but like the lack of imagination of some Star Trek fans out there, because immediately as soon as this gets announced, you see people posting like, yeah, but she died in Voyager's Endgame. How can they bring her back? And I'm like, yeah, she also died in First Contact and in the Best of Both Worlds, we found out, because as Picard says in First Contact, but that cube was destroyed with all the Borg on board. How did you survive? And her answer is, you think in such three-dimensional terms, how small you've become. So from her very first introduction, it was already like, but you died. Yeah, I know. Like, this isn't new. And then, of course, added into the alternate timeline thing that you mentioned, there's just limitless possibilities. So sometimes people surprise me that I'm like, really? That's the complaint? Okay.
I know, but I'm so glad you mentioned that line that she says in the movie, because I want to use that line on social media. Anytime it says, no, but this can't happen, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to use that line about how small you are. You can't think in 3 dimensions, or you only think in 3 dimensions or whatever. I love that, because it's true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to be creative, right? You got to think outside the box. The rules, you think you know the rules, but the rules aren't always the rules. You just assume the rules, but also rules are meant to be broken. And the thing about this is a creative endeavor. So let people play these things out and see how they do it. And sometimes, yeah, you can go too far. They go to the well too often. Maybe it's always like, well, every time somebody dies, they always come back. I mean, that can get old. So, there's criticism on that. But, give it a chance and see how they handle it before you start poo-pooing on it.
Yeah. I also love, like, some people are saying like, oh, the Borg Queen again. We've done the Borg Queen so many times. And as much as it hates me to see this particular number, the last time we saw the Borg Queen was over 20 years ago. So I think we're okay to have her come back.
Yeah. I mean, she's in Star Trek, right? This is Star Trek. It only makes sense to have her there. But yeah. I mean, I kind of get what they're saying. I mean, sometimes I do wish we, as I was saying, going to the well a little too often. I'm not saying that, but I'd like to see some more originality in things. But and I'm not saying we're not going to see originality in season 2. We may see new characters and new aliens or new situations that we've never seen in Star Trek before. And so we've got some familiar mixed in with the strange and different and the new. But I mean, why not have, and I'm kind of kidding, but in some ways I'm not. But, why not have the Borg princess? We had the queen, have the Borg princess. You could actually develop a new type of, I'm not saying it should be a Borg princess, but develop a new type of Borg type of character. Like when we saw First Contact, well, that was different. We never seen a Borg queen. We never even heard of a Borg queen. What is this, right? I want something like that again.
So now you mentioning a Borg princess makes me think of like some future timeline where Disney has bought Star Trek and then the Borg princess becomes a Disney princess.
I would be very pleased with that. The Borg princess and Snow White and Ariel together. Yes.
And then you turn your back and you turn back around and there's just like 10 Borg princesses. And you're like, wait, what just happened?
Yes. All the Disney princesses get Borgified. They're all Borg. Yep. Yes.
There you go. Well, the one thing I want to talk a bit more about with regards to this story as well is the casting of Annie Wershing. And I do have to say, like, there's a lot of pictures out there with her next to the Borg Queen, like just 2 photos side by side. And I gotta say, I think at least looks wise, they made a great choice because I can totally see those facial features. So the Borg Queen, of course, was played by Alice Krige in First Contact as well as Voyager's Endgame, and Susanna Thompson in the Borg Queen's other appearances in Voyager. Both of those actors are, I think, in their late 60s now. So, they're getting up there to kind of play this kind of leaf Borg Queen or whatever. And I don't know, I gotta say, looks wise, she looks like she can really step into those shoes. Or I don't know if Borg wear shoes, but into that makeup anyway.
Yeah, I think they wear like Nike
Yeah.
Borg Nike. But you know,
the Nike Borg sponsorship has long been established. I mean, yeah, that relationship goes back very far.
It's a Borgified swoosh on the shoe. But Alice and Susanna, I mean, when Susanna replaced Alice as the Borg Queen and then Alice came back, I mean, I didn't really think they looked all that different, you know? So, yeah, I think you're right, though. I think Annie looks like she could be a Borg Queen. She kind of has that similar look as the other two actresses have. So, yeah, and I don't think the Borg Queen has to look identical at each time.
That's true,
even,
too, yeah.
right? So, I think this is a good choice. I'm curious to see how it plays out. And for all we know, they even might design her a little differently.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, this whole era of Star Trek has been one of reinvention and slightly tweaked and updated looks. So I'd actually be quite surprised if there weren't at least some subtle differences between the Borg Queen that we've seen on Voyager and First Contact.
Well, and you know, if John Delancey's on Cameo again, we might find out more about the Borg Queen.
Absolutely.
But, you know, they're bringing him back and we have an older Q. We could have had an older Borg Queen. Or what they should have done is replace John Delancey with another actor to play Q. And that could have been Will Wheaton.
Oh, there you go. Yep.
Can you imagine Will Wheaton is the new Q? That would have been so cool.
He flashes into Picard's study and says, "Hey, nerds!" Oh, but yeah, I'm really excited to see, like, we haven't seen any looks for this Borg Queen or anything like that. I'm excited for our first look. I'm wondering what else is coming in season 2 that we don't know about, like, because they've let a lot of interesting tidbits go. We know Q's coming. We know there's time travel. We know there's the Borg Queen. I've got to wonder if they're keeping like some stuff in their back pocket that's going to be like even bigger surprises. I don't know. Maybe I'm just building it up too much, but I'm like, there's got to be some other stuff that we have no idea about.
There are several times on the show where I call something. I'll say, this is what I think is going to happen. I'm calling it, write it down, and I never write it down. But I should start writing it down. And here I'm going to call one thing right now. Gates McFadden will be Beverly Crusher in season 2. We will see it. That will be the big surprise because we're going to see different aspects of Picard's life, either in an alternate reality or a past thing or something, or whatever it's going to be. And we're all going to be astounded to see, there's Dr. Crusher with Picard. I'm calling it now.
I wouldn't put it past them. I like that theory. I think that's interesting.
But now the actress has said she's not on, but you know.
So did Marina Sirtis, though, for season 1.
I don't believe anybody. And I won't hold it against them.
Yeah, no, they're just following the rules of their NDA, which some actors lately have not been doing a good job of. I don't know. Again, I'm not sure if you guys discussed this last week. I think this news actually came out the week before's episode, and I neglected to mention it or bring it up or anything. But Robert Beltran at a convention, right, ended up saying that he's going to be in Star Trek Prodigy.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm not that sure. I think, there was something he said, but then I thought I saw some animation of him, but maybe that was fan done because Katie and I talked about that, I think, on our Lower Decks review. She brought it up.
Okay.
And I haven't seen that since. So maybe it was a fan made thing because he looked really young, a young Chakotay.
I do know that like he did let it slip that he will be on the show, though. As far as that particular animation, I don't know if that's real or not.
Yeah.
But
because I haven't seen it since that animation.
Yeah. I'm really curious about, because it sounds like it was not something that was meant to be released. But yeah, I wonder if we'll see more Voyager characters, because I listened to Weekly Trek, Alex Perry's show on the Tricorder Transmissions Network. He was talking about it with his co-star, and he was talking about Roxanne Dawson's reaction when Robert Beltran said that. Like, she was like, "Oh, I don't think you're supposed to bring that up," or something like that. And Robert Beltran obviously just didn't care and kept talking about it. And apparently was like, should I? What the heck? So it makes me wonder if like Roxanne Dawson already knew about that and therefore maybe also is going to be in Star Trek Prodigy and had signed it and just like, I'm not saying anything. And I'm wondering if there's going to be a bunch of the Voyager characters, because I know you and I have speculated that we might see Robert Picardo as the Doctor, maybe, and some other characters and stuff. So maybe it's just a whole Voyager reunion. You never know.
Didn't we see in this Trek movie article, we were talking earlier about Prodigy, didn't we see there was tweets from someone that associated with the show that said we will be seeing some Voyager characters?
So yeah, the article does say it was also confirmed again that some legacy characters, in addition to Janeway, will make their way into Prodigy. And of course, they do make mention of the fact that Robert Beltran did let it slip at the Las Vegas Star Trek convention. But yeah, it does sound like there's going to be a few more. This tweet does say, the brothers Hageman just confirmed that we will be seeing some more familiar faces from the Star Trek universe in Star Trek Prodigy. So, the other thing that I just remembered was there was an interview with Mike McMahon about Lower Decks, where he was saying that they trade notes with the other shows quite a bit. And he said there were instances, and he didn't say any names, but where we wanted to bring a character back, but they were going to do it on Star Trek Prodigy. So we compared notes and decided to tweak our showing of that character based on what they're going to do with them on Prodigy. So my immediate thought went to Tom Paris because we've already seen him, but maybe other characters in future episodes that we haven't seen as well. So there's going to be a few, I think, for sure.
Well, I don't know. We can ask John Delancey. Let's pay for a cameo thing, and we'll find everything from him. He probably knows what's going on in all the shows. Actually, no, he doesn't. First of all, I did want to mention this. We were talking about the opening of Prodigy. We've talked about the villains. We've talked about Picard having the Borg Queen. Why are we getting all this information now and not on Star Trek Day? I mean, why didn't they just hold this for another week? I'm just surprised by that they released all this in the past week when they had Star Trek Day coming. This stuff would have been great to premiere then. So it makes me wonder, how much more we're going to get more stuff, right? So
this is what I'm saying. Yeah, there might be stuff that is going to totally blow our minds. If this is the preamble, who knows what's going to be revealed further on Star Trek Day, and then what's going to be revealed when the show's actually aired that we don't get any hint of at all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
I think it's going to be a really fun year for Star Trek. I'm really excited for all of this.
I want to know the date for Prodigy. That's what I'm hoping to find out on Star Trek Day.
Yeah. I think we'd better definitely find that date out, as well as maybe a Discovery drop date as well. I'm not sure. Well, the last bit of news doesn't have to do with any currently airing Star Trek or anything like that. Instead, this is another new Star Trek collectible product that you can pick up. This one's a little different because it could actually be a little useful around the house. And this is from the company Star Trek Unlimited. They're the ones that are releasing their Star Trek Lower Decks Tom Paris collector's plate. But they're releasing their second release, which is a prop replica of Geordi's toolkit from Star Trek The Next Generation. Now, what I find funny about this, of course, is the original toolkit that they used on the show was basically a retail available case that was for toting around cassette tapes. So it's kind of come full circle, right? Where they based they built the prop out of a commercially available thing. And now decades later, they're making a commercially available prop replica based on that prop. So it's kind of weird that for whoever didn't go out and buy this cassette tote case back in the day and modify it yourselves, you can buy one now that's actually a toolkit.
That's funny. I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, this does look like one of those cassette tape carriers because my wife still has hers. It's sitting right outside of this room because I have a storage room outside of my room here. And it's in there. I keep telling her, shouldn't we just get rid of all those tapes? Why are you even keeping them? Because, you're never listening to them. You don't have a tape player. And second, they're on Spotify if you wanted to, but yeah, I mean, I already have one.
You just need to modify it and make it into Geordi's case. Yeah.
I don't know if I would get this. I mean, because first of all, I would love this because this is a toolkit that I would actually want to have. I've never been excited about a toolkit. This is one I would want to have, but it's just not practical. Like, because it comes with the tools in there, but I mean, some of these I might use, but it wouldn't. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'd still have to have my regular toolkit with the hammer and other things because it wouldn't fit into this. But yeah, this might be decent to have. This would be a good Father's Day gift.
It would be fun. There's a bunch of useful stuff in there. There's like wire strippers and okay. The full list of things that are available in this kit. So it does look exactly like, or is really close to the one that Geordi carried. And I think the picture they use in this Trek Core article is him about to beam over to the Pakled ship in the TNG Season 2 episode Samaritan Snare. So that little gray case that he carries around, right? And in this case, they have a pry knife, a mini suction cup, a magnetized bit holder, prolong bar, 6-inch wire cutter, 9mm utility knife, steel ruler, metal pry bar, electrostatic ring, small suction cup plus SIM card tools, anti-static cloth, 2 plastic pry bars, 2 pry tools, 3 metal pry bars, 3 precision tweezers, 4 spudgers. And I actually had to look up what a spudger is for this story because what the heck's a spudger? For the record, it's a tool used to pry apart 2 things that are like sealed together. You kind of wedge it in between them or something.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, I had no idea. There's also 20 cable ties and 54 precision screwdriver bits. So I don't know why there'd be a small suction cup maybe to pick things up. There's some stuff in here I'm like, why is this in here? I don't know, but it could be useful, I think,
Yeah, I mean, these are things that I don't have, so maybe it would be good to have because some of these things would be like, oh, you know what? This little device or this little suction cup may come in handy right now, I do love cable ties, by the way, so I'm glad that's there.
They're so handy. Absolutely. Well, yeah, so the tools inside and the bits and bobs are actually useful, but when you buy this thing, you're definitely paying for the prop replica aspect of it because it does have on the outside the Starfleet Delta from TNG, and it says on it Engineering Field Kit, and it's, decked out to look like that case. And it has a price tag of $89.99. You can order that from Star Trek Unlimited. So like I say, you're paying for the prop replica aspect of it, and the tools, while useful, you could definitely get those cheaper in another case of some kind. But yeah, if you're handy around the house or you just want something that looks like Geordi's engineering kit, this is available.
I've been really keeping an eye on the marketing of Star Trek lately and just noticing how much they use the TOS Star Trek logo on everything now. And like that is the standard logo. And now this is a TNG product. They even show there's an image of Picard and, the TNG cast on the packaging for this box. But it's got the TOS Star Trek logo, or I should say now the franchise Star Trek logo, and not the Star Trek The Next Generation logo. And I wanted to point this out too, because we have a new comic that's releasing this week, and it is issue 0 of The Mirror War. And it's a Mirror Universe comic series that's coming out that features the TNG cast that is a sequel to some other TNG Mirror Universe comics that we've gotten. But again, on the cover, they don't use Star Trek Next Generation anymore. It's the TOS Star Trek logo, which is odd to see on a TNG comic. So it seems like we're moving more and more that logo is the Star Trek logo for everything.
Yeah. And I mean, as someone who buys Star Trek model kits, so for example, the USS Voyager model kit was recently released. It uses that same Star Trek franchise logo. It just says Voyager underneath, and it has Janeway in the corner. But it's that same harmonized look with that little wedge on the right-hand side with the characters and that kind of thing. So yeah, that definitely is something that obviously is coming from CBS Consumer Products, and they're dictating that design is to be used for sure. Yeah, I'm interested in this. I don't know if I'll buy it, but it's kind of cool. I like that it's different, the Tom Paris collector's plate, and then this toolkit. They're doing some interesting things with Star Trek products, and that's good to see.
Yeah, I probably won't get it, but I would put it on a list if somebody said, oh, I want to get you something for, holidays, birthday, or whatever. I might go, oh, that's something I wouldn't buy for myself, but if you want to spend that money and get that for me, sure, I'd love to have that, actually.
Awesome. Well, I guess that pretty much wraps up all the Star Trek news from this week. We're going to have, obviously, a lot more news next week after Star Trek Day and that whole announcement. Really excited for all of that. Really curious as to see what we're going to get. It looks like it's going to be a bigger event than the last year's Star Trek Day. So I'm so excited for all of the things that will be revealed and all of that sort of stuff. But that's for next week's episode. If you want to talk about anything that we discussed in this week's episode, please reach out to us, positivelytrek@gmail.com, or on Twitter @positivelytrek. Patreon.com/positivelytrek. Send us a message on there if you are feeling generous and want to help out the show. We would really appreciate your help there as well. Thank you to all of the Patreon supporters who have already helped us out. We really do appreciate all of your assistance in bringing this show to you. And Bruce, when people want to talk to you about the Geordi LaForge toolkit or anything else that we talked about today, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter @Admiral_Rex. That's Admiral, _Rex. And then you can also occasionally hear me on Literary Treks and on the Star Wars Report podcast. And Dan, you're back. You're back.
I'm back for the foreseeable future. You can find me on Twitter @Kurtrats. You can find me on youtube.com/Kurtrats Productions. I'm going to be getting that back into gear pretty quick here. Instagram, Kurtrats47. And of course, on Facebook in the Positively Trek discussion group. So I've been noticing a lot of people are liking Positively Trek, the page on Facebook. Make sure to also search for Positively Trek discussion group and join there. There's always great conversations happening and little to no flame wars between people because it's such an awesome, welcoming group of people and I love it. So yeah, look forward to seeing you there. And until our next episode, thank you so much for listening and stay positive.